Green Wisdom School is a 16-year-old school that the founder runs, and it's an alternative school. It's a very humble beginning, starting off with 10 children on the terrace, and it's gradually grown into a school for 550 children with about 60 facilitators. So Bhumi network branched off a couple of years back when they decided to create facilitators. So the idea is facilitators not in the context of teachers, but people who will focus on process work. By process work, I mean looking inward and who are we, like she mentioned, the focus on feelings and not just thoughts and actions. So the Sankalan program is again is a branch of Bhumi network, which offers 5 different levels of programs, starting with your inner self. The focus is always about looking inward. So as a facilitator or as an individual, when you start respecting yourself for what you are and who you are, you start appreciating the children. When we started the course in July, the first thing that we did was looking at ourselves. So there was like this 1-week intense program called Inner and Outer Ecology. We just had to dig into your past and how was I as a child, what were the challenges as an adolescent and now as an adult. So there's a lot of reflections that happened, and there was of course a lot of offerings from the facilitators. So what is great about the college is there are no advices thrown at you. So it is more like an offering from their personal experiences, and they respect for what you are. So if I come in with perspectives, with different perspectives, it is acknowledged. It is not said, this is right, this is wrong. There is no right or wrong. So that is the kind of platform that Bhumi College provides. So going back to, we started a lot with the process work and gradually moved into sustainability also, because even though I signed up for the education program, there was a lot of sustainability that was delivered. So we did a bit of farming, gardening, and because that is how learning must happen. So even if I'm going to be an educator, how do I bring in nature is very important, and that is one of going back to the principles is very important. We were totally immersed in field work, in groundwork. And then we moved into the education modules. So psychology, understanding child psychology is very important. So this part of understanding how learning happens looks at psychology and philosophy of education. Psychology, what exactly is brain sciences? How does the brain work? What are the developments, the 8 stages of development? What is important, like the windows of opportunity. At the age of 3, I learned music way better than at the age of 18 or 20. So why does that happen? How does the brain function? So those are things that we looked at. Philosophy of education, amazing things that Gandhi and Tagore believed in. Unfortunately, it's all diluted and it's not in practice. So what was education many years back? How did he envision education and where we are now? So we kind of traced the entire timeline of education. Then we had a look at multiple intelligences. So this is something that unfortunately many teachers are not even aware of. So there are 8 kinds of intelligences in the brain, and every child learns very differently. So when you're working on a lesson plan, why is it important to integrate all of these intelligences? To keep in mind that there are, how do you appreciate that? Blocks to creativity, that is a lot of self-work. What are the fears that we come up with, the fears from the external factors, because of the environment that I grew up in. For example, conformity. Some of us can be very high on conformity, the social norms. This is how a girl should behave, this is how a boy should behave. Or I come from this community, so I'm expected to behave this way, or get married to someone from the same community. That you can be very high on that, again because of your upbringing. Disabilities is something inherent that each of us is born with, so getting rid of it is very difficult. But what can you add to work around that? For example, rigidity. So we could be very high on our beliefs, but that can disable you in accepting or even considering another point of view. So how does that work? So how does that affect as an individual and as a facilitator? Learning styles, again, so every child is very different. How do I learn? Am I high on auditory, visual, or kinesthetic? So these are things that kind of brought us into understanding how learning happens.